Hi everyone, welcome to our customer webinar, How National Geographic is Using BlueJeans to Cut Carbon Emissions. My name is Maggie Bliss and I'm your moderator this morning. Today I am joined by Marcus Manderson, the Audiovisual Operations Supervisor at National Geographic, and Justin McHeffy, our BlueJeans Product Marketing. So before we kick things off, there's a couple housekeeping items I want to go over. First, this is the BlueJeans Events product, so you're in a one-way viewing experience. That means that if you have any technical issues, please use the moderator chat feature located on the right-hand side. It's the third icon down, and then the last icon is going to be our Q&A chat feature. And if you have any questions regarding today's topic, please post them in there and we'll ask Marcus and Justin at the end of the presentation. And lastly, this is recorded and I will send it out to all of you after the event. And with that, I'll pass it off to Justin. Justin, I can't hear you.
How about now, Mags?
Perfect. Thank you.
I had all that built up and you couldn't even hear me. My apologies, everybody. So here's a snapshot of what we're going to talk about today. And our thanks to Marcus for joining us. We're going to talk about National Geographic and its collaboration within a global publication. We'll also talk about work from home policies now and then, how things have changed. Obviously, working from home and working remote has changed a lot of the world these days. And we'll also talk about National Geographic and the BlueJeans partnership, when it began, the history of this relationship, and the different feature needs and business drivers that drove the early part of the relationship. And we'll talk about reducing the carbon footprint worldwide and how National Geographic is a LEED certified business and how video conferencing has enabled part of that. And then at the very end, we encourage you to please ask the expert, Marcus or myself, about any of the content that you have seen today. And so with that, we'll launch right into this. So Marcus, National Geographic has provided some of the world's most well-known images, and I can't start this presentation without asking you, what's your favorite articles by National Geographic?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to present and speak to everyone around the world. And I should start off by sort of laying the groundwork for our mission and by our, I mean, National Geographic. And our sort of statement is sort of using the power of science, exploration, education, and storytelling to illuminate and protect the wonder of our world. And we do that through images, through journalism, and through video, even more recently. So before I answer this specific question, as far as like a favorite article, I do want to discuss that I do have sort of a inherent bias because I work at National Geographic. So I get to learn some of the stories behind the stories, learn the stories of the photographers, how long it took them to get these images. Sometimes they're in locations for months at a time, taking thousands, if not tens of thousands of images, and then they bring it back to our incredible photo editing staff, and they have to cull it down to sometimes from like 50,000 to just 10 images to make the story. And then if they're even really lucky, one or two of those images will make an impact around the whole world, if not the whole story. So I've had the opportunity to meet some incredible photographers from around the world. We do have two in-house photographers that to me are two of the best photographers in the world. I've had the chance to sort of meet Pete Souza, which was sort of like my fan moment, who was the White House photographer for the Ronald Reagan administration and Barack Obama's administration. And just having conversations with them, just learning from these guys, even just taking a technique that I can use on my like phone when I'm taking pictures. So to bring it to this picture here, this is a photo by John Stenmeyer, I think from 2014. It's called Signals from Djibouti, that features people standing on a beach there with their smartphones illuminating the sky, trying to get a signal. And it sort of provides a window into how these remote places around the world are becoming connected through this technology. through sophisticated communication that you wouldn't think that some of these places would have access to. But here you are on the beach in this country that you would think is removed from a lot of technological advances, and they're sort of connecting to the outside world using that technology. So even in these countries where they're getting this emerging technology, they're able to be connected to people beyond that continent or that country using the network and strength. I guess in our case, we would imagine that these people right here are trying to get a signal so that they can join a BlueJeans meeting at that time, which would be a great add-on to the story. But yeah, so this is actually one of those favorite images that's resonated with me over the years.
Fantastic. It's a high impact image for sure, and great segue into these folks looking for a BlueJeans signal so they can join a call. You know, when we talk now about your job as a technology manager for an international publication, how does IT and facilities support these efforts across the world?
Yep. So what's sort of been great over the last few years, we've integrated more. So my sort of history with National Geographic, I started more in the AV role, and for a while there was a very clear separation of AV and IT. And over the last several years, there's been more of an integration because AV does rely on infrastructure network of IT to sort of keep all the AV functions going. There really is a blurred line, and communication is there between both teams so that we can keep sort of the technology going. So to sort of highlight what you have here in these boxes, from the endpoint management, right now we're sort of in this stage where we have a lot of remote employees, whereas in the past you might have had a handful like around the world. Now you have all staff that's in a remote situation. We do have some emergency staff on site, obviously. And we don't really have access to these huddle spaces and conference rooms and boardrooms. When we are on site, we do have close to 100 meeting rooms. We do have a conference center that sort of has technology that integrates with the BlueJeans system, and we have a boardroom that also has equipment, very grand boardroom. And we also have offices that have technology. So all these spaces we can manage even now with the technology we have. I can manage them off without being on site. I can go into the admin console and sort of monitor usage. Obviously, right now nothing's being used, but just to have that access. Whereas even the situation we're in right now, to be in this place 5-10 years ago, we definitely wouldn't have that technology and infrastructure in place. And we can sort of do all that now. For the enablement, we have sort of the troubleshooting, insights and analytics, and I'll get to more of that later. But BlueJeans provides very detailed analytics that I have yet to see in other platforms that sort of helps us maintain some of our green initiatives. We're able to track the trends of how staff is using the platform, and then monitor the communications quality. If people are having droppages or any issues connecting, we can monitor all that within the console. And then for the technology procurement, obviously, again, right now, not really adopting a lot of new hardware, only because everyone's sort of in this remote situation. And employees are sort of tied to the devices they had when this thing kicked off. So if they have like a mobile device, tablet, cell phone, and then their laptop or computers, most people have either one or all three of those types of devices. And then we're able to use those to sort of connect to these video conferencing tools, and BlueJeans has sort of spearheaded that conversation on our end.
Fantastic. So I'm sure a busy day to day, responsible for those three major arms of the business. And so that brings us into this next question about video meeting culture at National Geographic. So can you please talk through the effects of work from home mandates at your company and around the world given the COVID crisis?
So I'll sort of start from I'll sort of go narrow and then sort of broader from our National Geographic experience. So if you look at these images here, obviously on the left is sort of where we were before this pandemic. And for us, that was all the way up until March 12th. And then on March 13th, we were sort of given the work from home mandate. So March 12th, we were on the left. And then as of March 13th, we sort of shifted to the right side image there. So you went from a lot of face-to-face meetings in person. You did have to an extent, we had the virtual meetings, but we would have more than one person on one end. So you might have a virtual meeting with 5 people on one side and 5 people on the other side. And now it's, a lot of it is one person on each side of the call, on each end. So we're not all meeting in one space and having this virtual meeting with another team on the other side. It's like you have 50 people at 50 different endpoints. So the shift for us, I think on our end, we have been sort of preparing for this by having sort of these systems in place, by having BlueJeans available and still being able to access. Obviously, there are other platforms where, because we are an international organization, we do have to join those meetings to sort of keep business going. And some other companies use other platforms that we have to sort of accommodate. But having these platforms available on a remote basis where you don't have to go into a specific room that only has hardware that can integrate with this equipment is great. And I think on a more broader scale for those organizations that can survive and are thriving, they are, I think what it's allowing them to do for those that sort of had a tough or non-existent work from home policy, they're starting to see that they can adapt to situations like this. Even for us, where we may have had some beliefs that, I can't do my work from home for whatever reason. And then this situation hit, it's like, oh, well, then you have to do your work from home. And it's like, well, now I can. And I think moving forward, that flexibility will be there, especially for keeping staff in mind that may have family members, elderly members, or kids, as we don't know, like the school situations, which is different in almost every state, if not every school district. Their policies could change and affect whether staff can even go back into work. So I think what this, if you can look at the bright side sort of the situation, it's allowing companies to develop or improve flexible work schedules, allowing staff to work remotely, work from home, to accommodate their situations, while also being empathetic of whatever they're going through.
Absolutely. And then when we talk about those new work from home policies, I'm happy to say that the history of the BlueJeans and National Geographic partnership has lasted 10 years. In fact, National Geographic was one of our first customers at BlueJeans. And so we've appreciated that business and that relationship for all this time. And I've got to ask, what were those business drivers that caused you guys to partner with us?
So let me sort of first start off. I've been at National Geographic, it'll be, I believe, 13 years, come around Thanksgiving time. And when we first were looking at BlueJeans, I wasn't directly involved with the decision-making process as far as why we decided to go with BlueJeans. I do believe at the time, obviously, this had to be 9-10 years ago, a decade almost. There wasn't as much competition in the field, and even what was there was pretty much not at the level that BlueJeans was at, even at the time. And there have been sort of some key factors that I've championed BlueJeans for over the years. And the 3 main factors for me has been the international dialing, the video sharing, which was sort of top level BlueJeans. Was the first to sort of have pretty seamless video sharing where you can have a video uploaded to the BlueJeans server, hit play, it plays for everyone with no problem. And then the recording meetings, which at the time we didn't see anywhere else. So prior to BlueJeans, we were using what may now seem like outdated equipment, Tandberg in one room. We did have a lot of life-size Clear C equipment deployed around the world. And that was basically pretty much tied to the equipment. So you had to buy life-size equipment and then had to set it up a specific way in certain locations. And then we sort of shifted from that to the more BlueJeans cloud-based system. And we were pretty early adopters. I remember my boss at the time would send me home early, and this had to be 9 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, and testing out the system before we sort of adopted it. They'd be like, just go home. We'll set up a meeting and just make sure that you can connect from home so that people can connect remotely. And thinking about that, I was like, man, that was so far, obviously ahead of its time because of where we are now. But to be testing this technology out even 10 years ago in that situation and not even thinking that we would be in that place today. But some of those limitations that we were seeing in those other platforms, BlueJeans was sort of the first to have those, so that enhanced video sharing, the built-in recording, the international dialing, and then sort of after using it, we started realizing there was even more to it that I think we'll get to in a little bit.
Fantastic. Well, great to hear that we've been reliable since the beginning, and interesting to see where things are headed in terms of what's next for BlueJeans, environmental protection and advocacy. So this is a very important tenet of National Geographic. So please talk through how BlueJeans has fit into your LEED certification and other green initiatives at National Geographic.
So sort of the unknown benefit of the BlueJeans platform once we adopted it. So I sort of had the three pillars of why BlueJeans has worked really well for us: the video recording, the international dialing, and the video sharing. And this was sort of an unknown benefit that we found after using the platform. It's like, oh, if we go into the console, we can sort of get analytics from these meetings and see the meeting minutes being used, how much money it's being saved based on obviously the IP location of where the people are connecting from. And they can say people are connecting from this continent. If they flew to where you were, the cost would have been estimated at this point. So in a recent report I did, I found that we were up to 40,000 meeting minutes, roughly, on a single day, and saving on average in 2 months up to $250,000 and $1 million in mileage or gas and 200 tons of emissions. So having these reports sent to we have a lady on our staff that is sort of our green initiatives leader, and having this sent to her frequently, she can sort of keep that in her reports. And even right now, I'm sure those numbers may be even higher. And going along with that, because we're not on site, we're saving on like not having to have food waste or the emissions that we're saving by not going to the office. Sort of those unwritten that'll help us keep our certification and our LEED and our green initiatives. So while we can't see each other face to face, there are some benefits even around the world. You may have seen pictures of how some cities, I believe there's a picture of LA floating around where there was like a lot of smog and pollution in the air prior to this pandemic. And then you see recent pictures where there's like animals just roaming the land and a lot of greenery and clear skies, clouds, and you can sort of see everything just blooming and blossoming, sort of like the earth healing itself. And this is sort of ties into all of that, our LEED certification and green initiatives.
Great to hear that. And it's been great to hear from you and also from other customers about the cost savings related to video conferencing pre-COVID and now current and post-COVID. So good to hear. At least we're doing the planet a favor hopefully in the longer term. We'll see. So now we're going to talk a little bit about your hands-on involvement with different conferences and workshops. And I know that you're responsible on a day-to-day for managing different conference rooms, managing collaborative technology and things like that. But you guys offer this annual Storytellers Summit, and it's very interesting. I think folks are going to get a lot out of this. So please speak from an IT perspective about this very technical event that you guys host every year.
So we have a number of tentpole events throughout the year. Fortunately, it kicks off in mid-January with the Storyteller Summit. And so far, this has been sort of the only one of those tentpole events we've been able to do on site and in person this year. So luckily that went off without any problems. But it's basically an annual event where we have photographers, writers, filmmakers, illustrators, journalists, storytellers, scientists from around the world, and they come. It's really geared at those emerging in these fields. They come on site for a week long of presentations, workshops where they're learning how to storytell, how to take pictures. Vendors come on site showing like some of their new technology. And we're able to connect those that sort of can't make it or that want to sort of see it after the fact using BlueJeans technology. There's a lot of breakout sessions. So some of them are sort of ad hoc where people they run into someone in the hallway. They're like, hey, let's just hop in a room real quick, hop on a meeting with so-and-so who happens to be in this country. A lot of times these explorers or photographers and journalists, they might not have seen each other in the past year. Or if they missed the last couple events, they might not have seen each other in 2 or 3 years, if not longer. But they're aware of each other's work, or they meet each other at this event. They're like, hey, you're working on this project that ties in greatly with what I'm working on for this research project or this grant or whatever. So there's a lot of connections that can be made. And for those that can't make it in person, they can connect using the BlueJeans platform. And this is just one of those events. We have a number of them throughout the year. And even right now, as we're sort of exploring platforms to use moving forward because of this pandemic, how we can accommodate those that are comfortable with coming back in person and those that sort of want to have experience virtually, and are looking at BlueJeans events as one of those options, even at this moment.
That's fantastic. And, not long ago, National Geographic submitted for this Best of Breed Award, BlueJeans Best of Breed Award. And I think that what was so compelling about the submission was that highlighting this summit, this Storytellers Summit at National Geographic, it was a no-brainer that this was a very high-impact workshop and conference because all of the folks that were joining it remotely, well, it's their job to learn these different best practices and industry-leading thoughts and perspectives on how to take the best pictures and tell the best stories. And then, so that means that you and I and everybody out there that reads National Geographic, we're impacted because they got to learn in this remote environment and improve their craft and their skill set. So I just loved that story and how you guys are using BlueJeans. Very cool. So with that, this brings us to the Q&A portion. And so for everybody watching, I really want to encourage you, please use the Q&A function on the right-hand side. Some of the things that we talked about, IT mission, even meeting culture, the BlueJeans and National Geographic partnership, environmental impacts, and use cases. So don't be shy. Please send in your questions, and Maggie will facilitate. With that, Maggie, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That was awesome. I have a couple questions that we'll just ask as we're waiting for people to submit. So, Marcus, how do you think the Verizon's acquisition of BlueJeans will strengthen your video conferencing suite services, support, and technology all around?
So I was actually surprised that it's taken any company really this long to sort of acquire BlueJeans, just because of what has been built over the last decade. And I think it will only be better. So leveraging Verizon network, and it really could have been anyone. I could have been AT&T or whoever. I think whoever acquired BlueJeans, it would only help their build out their sort of communications platform. And Verizon luckily has established a well stable network over the years. So I only think it'll be a great collaboration for both sides. And I actually wasn't surprised when I read the news. I was surprised at how long it's taken someone to sort of gobble up BlueJeans, so to speak, and sort of put that under their sort of domain. But I think only good things. So leveraging the Verizon network for the BlueJeans platform. BlueJeans already had some of the best sort of bandwidth. So to put that on the Verizon network will only make things even better.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited too. So we have a couple more technical BlueJeans specific questions. So James asked, what are the key advantages over something like Microsoft Teams?
So I think I have very limited experience with Microsoft Teams. I've used it to join meetings with some partners and vendors. I just think BlueJeans is a little bit more user friendly. Just personally, again, this is all personal now, just from my experience. And sort of those things that I've come to love about BlueJeans over the years have only gotten better. So video sharing, the recording features, the international dialing. Not saying that these other platforms don't have that. I just think because BlueJeans was sort of the first to develop these, that they have been the first to improve these as well. So even where right now you're seeing some of these other platforms try to play catch up with BlueJeans on some of these features, whether it be Microsoft Teams or Zoom or Google Hangouts. BlueJeans, and my timeline may be off. I believe BlueJeans, if they weren't the first, they were among the first. And Zoom might have come like a year or two later. And then sort of Hangouts and Teams were developed along the way. But in our experience, we found BlueJeans first, and they sort of hit all those bullet points, and then those added benefits. If you're really concerned about how much money you're saving, I haven't seen the analytics at all on any of these other platforms. Not saying they don't have them, I just haven't found them. So if you want to be able to go to sort of some executives at the end of each month or the end of the year and say, hey, we saved $1 million in travel costs or whatever, or we saved all these metric tons. A lot of times executives are thinking they're really worried more about the bottom line. So if you can say we saved X amount of dollars at the end of the year by having these BlueJeans meetings, that's already built into the platform, and you can have sort of those graphs printed up and sent in sort of or more often you need them. I think that's been a really good asset from the platform that I haven't seen anywhere else, at least not at that level, and as easily sort of digested and able to comprehend.
Yeah. And then Mateus asked, what equipment do your users use to dial in? Are they mostly using cell phones or laptops, tablets? And do people use external headsets with audio built in? And how often do you have participants change to low bandwidth mode? That was kind of a lot. But
all great questions, Mateus. Thank you for asking. I'll answer this multiple ways. So I'll answer more of what we're using on site, and then sort of what remotely we're using in these days, this day and age. On site, unfortunately, we don't have any. Actually, I'll take that back. We have some conference rooms. So National Geographic has two entities. We have a nonprofit side and a profit side. The profit side is using sort of the BlueJeans equipment in their conference rooms. On our side, I work on the nonprofit side, but we do have conference rooms that are accessible to everyone. So for the rooms that do have equipment that integrates with BlueJeans, we're not using BlueJeans specific equipment. We're using Cisco systems. That way we can dial out to BlueJeans or Zoom or wherever as needed, because we do have partners that use other companies. Right now in these remote situations, they're sort of tied to those three mobile technologies that I sort of talked about earlier. So if staff has a tablet, whether it be an iPad or Android tablet, if they have a cell phone, usually it's iPad or Android or Apple or Android, or a laptop. So they're usually connecting using either the mobile app or the desktop app on the computer. We do have some that may use a browser, and BlueJeans does work. We always suggest the Chrome browser. I believe it may work in Safari and Firefox, maybe even Explorer, if for those using those. But most of our staff is using Chrome browser. So if they're on the laptop, they may be using the Chrome browser. If they're on a mobile device, obviously the BlueJeans app is the platform there. And there was another question he asked. Bandwidth. So I haven't really gotten direct feedback from people who've had to switch to either low bandwidth or high bandwidth. We've received questions sort of ahead of time from people that may be in another country, as far as how can they join. And we give them the options like, hey, you can either join if you have access to the internet by the app, or you can call in to the phone number, put in the ID. But it hasn't really, for us, hasn't gotten much past that point. So from the user end, we haven't really seen bandwidth issues. during this time. And you would think we would be seeing a lot more, but haven't really experienced that much yet. But we do send out when we have meetings, sort of all the information. So people may join from the phone if they're in transit. I mean, no one's really driving or flying anywhere. But if for some reason they have to be out or like taking their animal for a walk or out with like family, but they still want to join the meeting, they can either use a mobile app or just call in. But haven't had as many bandwidth reports, Matthias, on that.
Awesome. And then what equipment does one need to have BlueJeans platform fully implemented?
So right now, I don't think you need to have any specific hardware. And I think both of you can probably answer this better than I can. But for us, really, if you get the licenses, it's all cloud-based, so you can handle everything from an admin console where you can have certain people be an administrator of the account. They can assign licenses and rights to certain people. They can remove licenses if for some reason you have staff that moves or no longer needs a license or anything, and maybe reallocate those licenses to someone else. All you really need is internet access. I do suggest if you have a laptop that sort of the admin console experience may be better from a laptop or desktop experience as opposed to using a mobile device. And once you have everything set up, you can use a mobile device to sort of monitor things on the back end. But I think things are a little bit easier on the setup side if you do it from a laptop. But again, you can still do have a laptop experience on like an iPad or a tablet if you have sort of the desktop option when you're in the browser. Again, I may be off in some of those points, and Justin, feel free to correct me if I've misspoken any of those.
No, you nailed it. Absolutely. That's both of those things that you mentioned have been part of the BlueJeans story since we started. And so hardware interoperability is a big part of that. If you already have an existing hardware system, that's all right. If it's not BlueJeans branded, it doesn't need to be, because we integrate with cloud video interoperability. So if you need to outfit different conference rooms, no problem. Obviously, the shift these days has been for remote work. Everybody's at home, but we are supported by either major operating system, so Apple or Windows, iOS or Android. So if you use any of those things, BlueJeans works for you. Yep. Stuff.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it today. Thank you so much, Marcus, for joining us. Justin, thank you for your time. Again, we will have this recording sent to you after the event. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to respond to that email and follow up with us. Thank you.
Thank you.